The following Parkinson's Path podcast is provided by Lianna Marie with All About Parkinson's and Answers for Elders Radio.
And welcome to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we are here with Lianna Marie, who is an expert on Parkinson's disease. And she has many books on Parkinson's and a new book, The Parkinson's Path. And you can reach her also at allaboutparkinsons.com. And we're glad to have you with us, Lianna. And we're going to talk about a topic I think that we all deal with if there's a devastating diagnosis, whether it's Parkinson's, anything like that. But it's dealing with the disappointments. It's, you've been dealt a bad hand in life. I just read something where there was a person that had a terminal disease that was just an amazing individual, and she died at 37. And, we think about what kind of meaning can you have with your life? And how do you support those people, to have a full of life as possible? So Lianna, welcome back to Answers for Elders. We're always glad you're here.
Thanks, Suzanne. Yeah. And I'm smiling, but I know when we talk about having disappointments, it's not a happy conversation necessarily, but the goal is to talk about, yes, acknowledge these disappointments that are going to happen over a period of time with a chronic illness like Parkinson's.
Like what your mom had.
Yeah. It'll be, we can all expect a different path with Parkinson's, but let's be completely honest, there's disappointments along the way in terms of things that are taken away, perhaps from us, things that we might not be able to do anymore.
Like driving, I would imagine.
Yeah, over time, like a very long time. And in the case with my mom, it was 30 years of slow, gradual disappointments, potentially we could call them, but they were, but as we went through, we tried to replace. Let's say you lose this thing, but let's try to gain another thing over here.
Sure.
And so in that way, I just want to talk today about, some of the disappointments, practical or emotional, that mom went through, and then kind of things that we were able to do to help her through those, or that she did herself. And I do talk about the 30 years because when someone's diagnosed in their 40s, like my mom was, it's not an instant, like if someone's, for example, someone who's diagnosed in their 80s, it's going to look a lot different. So with someone in their 40s, they've got their family, they've got their kids. Yeah, there's a big because right away you're like, oh my gosh, I'm juggling my job, my kids, my life, just everything, and I'm not retired yet. I've got stuff going on, and so the disappointment is like this future, like how is that going to change my life, and not that fear of unknown, which we've talked about before. But honestly, one of the weird things that happens, I don't know if this is weird, but it's unexpected disappointment, was in the way that some of my mom's close friends reacted and to her diagnosis, and not all in a positive way that you might expect. And I think I will give them the benefit of the doubt that I think back when that happened, there wasn't as much information out there about Parkinson's, and it was a stigma. There was a stigma, as there still is. We talked about this in a previous podcast. And this concept that they had in their mind was that mom was now going to be this frail invalid that couldn't do anything. And so they changed their view about her, the way they looked at her.
They probably didn't invite her to do things because they were worried about it.
And so that was a huge letdown for my mom, if you can imagine.
Of course.
Like I did not, of all the things I might have anticipated, that was not one of them. And so dealing with that, and it was kind of a grieving, if I look back on it, okay, we got to cut bait from a couple of these friends because they are definitely not supportive. And that was a lesson that we learned over time, and something that you probably hear in other diseases. I know with my mom, I want to say my sister, when she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and knowing that stress can exacerbate any disease process, negativity, it's true. It does. And so the idea that for my sister to get rid of all the negative things, negative people, it sounds like very cutthroat, but in my sister's case, really had to do that very quickly because unlike my mom, she had a lot less time and in her lifespan. And it was and we realized, and when I look back, it's like the similar case to my mom where, these people were not helpful. They were not. So that was a big disappointment. And how we dealt with it was really just saying, okay, you know what? You're in or you're out. You're on this boat with me or you're not, but I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to focus on the people that are supportive, because mom did have a lot of really, as she would call them, gems in her life, friends that were just fabulous, and family members that really supported her on her journey. And I would just say to everyone that is a really key. It's basic, but it really is, life is too short to be being sucked in.
And it's also happens, I see it happen in families all the time.
Yeah.
You have the one person that is there no matter what with mom or dad that is declining. And then the rest of the family, they kind of go into their own quarters and they don't show up to visit. Of course, why is senior loneliness such a, phenomenal statistic, which is just insane. But this is why. It's like they don't know how to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it.
They don't want to, whatever
effort. They don't make the effort. And so they stay away, and it's hurtful. And it's, so with me on the other side, I always say, you know what? It's not about you. It's about them. Show up, be supportive, be loving. And you don't even have to talk if you don't want to. The point is to be that person that will show up. And
it's tough though on the other side, like if your sibling is not being supportive as a care partner later on, and you're like, they should be doing this. And it's tough to let that go. And I've seen it over and over again, this is not at the beginning phase of Parkinson's.
That's my story.
But later on, it's very tough. And I hear that over and over again. And you know what? There's no secret recipe, but the letting them go and saying, you know what, that's their life. That's their journey. This is my journey with my mom. This is my journey. And I'm going to own as much as I can own of it. And I'm going to focus on, again, in terms of that's a disappointment, right? It's a disappointment, but I got to let it go. And again, like, it's not an easy task to just say, okay, well, I guess they're not going to help out the way I hoped they were going to help out. And I'm happy about it. I'm not happy about it. But so anyway, I will say that a couple other things in terms of disappointments that I want to say is that I think about this movement disorder that Parkinson's is. So a lot of things can relate to that in terms of things that are disappointing and things that might be taken away, right? So if you are an very active person, and now you can't be, that's a huge disappointment. If you are, in my mom's case, she was a knitter. She was like if there was competition knitting, my mom would have been a competitive knitter because she was just so fast. She would put things together. But if you can imagine those fine motor skills slowly deteriorating, and then her not being able to do that anymore, what could we replace that hobby with? Sure. I'm always looking for like, okay. And again, it's a gradual, okay, we can't do this. What can we do next? And, there was piano, but then it became singing. And then if it wasn't singing, like so it was outdoors and working on her rock garden and big things like that. And so it was always trying to shift, going, okay, we can't do, okay, what else can we do then? Keep focusing on what can we do? Keep replacing, like, all right, that one's gone. And again, it wasn't saying that we weren't sad about it. It was just saying, well, we're not dead yet, so let's find another thing, right? Let's find another, and being focused on that and trying to replace. And personally, that's how I had to do it, like for care partnering. And certainly most of my disappointments would have come when mom had dementia. I will say, like that piece being taken away, mom's ability to have that relationship with me. Sure. And that's the part I know you can relate to. And that would be the biggest disappointment. How did I deal with that? Well, not very well at the beginning.
I think too, it has to do with disappointments happen most often when you have expectations.
Right. You're right.
And, whether it's, if you're a care partner and you're trying to, I get your family members and have all these expectations. And I think that's what I did wrong. Was I had expectations of my family that they never signed up for.
That they would be exactly like what you're doing. Like, why don't you just do everything that I'm doing?
Exactly. And I think I think, and that's in any sort of relationship. I think
Yes.
more often that we can look at why are we disappointed in the fact that, I'm really disappointed in my brother because he didn't come for, Thanksgiving, and it could be mom or dad's last Thanksgiving dinner. Right.
Yeah.
And so I had let's have all this thing in my head of he should have been there. And why didn't he do this? And we were all there and we couldn't have him in the pictures and all these things. And this is what goes on. And then we get angry. And when brother's going like, I just had to work, So I'm looking at it from really simplicity, but the whole point is I think, pay attention to your expectations.
That's a great point. And I know we often, people go, manage your again, not the easiest thing. Cause you're like, but I don't get it. I don't get why they can't do this. It's just so easy. Well, it may be easy for you, but maybe not so easy for them for whatever reason. And it's not giving them an excuse. It's just saying, hey, we're not all built the same. We're not all, so for that, I did take me some time to adjust my lens, if you will, that I was looking through everything.
Yeah.
And because I am guilty of sort of doing that, kind of wagging my finger at one of my siblings and saying, and yet it was nothing. It was a bit of a nothing burger. It was just me and what my expectation was a little higher than what they were doing. So yeah, that is a big one. And to just, I cannot say that probably enough that in general, just, it's always good to keep the positive, keep those positive, find your best tribe, your support group, your support people, stick around them and focus on those folks instead of keeping your focus on the one negative or the or that. Yeah.
Right.
Really is helpful.
Lianna, this has been a great conversation to have. And again, we invite everyone of you to listen to more of Lianna Marie's podcasts on your favorite podcast channel or in Answers for Elders. And looking forward to talking to you soon again, Lianna. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Suzanne.
The preceding Parkinson's Path podcast is provided by Lianna Marie with All About Parkinson's and Answers for Elders Radio. To learn more about Lianna's story, her books, The Parkinson's Wall of Honor, and more, go to allaboutparkinsons.com.